Hello, everybody. Uh, Most warm welcome to you all. So today we are in an episode of meeting a very special person who's actually a very good friend, a colleague, and a traveler in the journey together. So I would gladly like to invite Anthea Alexander, and we got to know and we had discussions also, and I was fascinated by her life. So even we call this like the journey and life of wise. We named it a woman, but actually a lady. So and I would very happily I would like to invite Anthea Alexander. Anthea, would you like to introduce yourself? I'll dig into your life and uh, see, because I think it's a marvelous journey and a huge healing process you have been going through, and it's very inspirational. That's why I wanted to invite you and listen to your story or your journey, actually. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to introduce myself. So, greetings of peace and welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Sanji. I'm very honored that you find my life fascinating. And thank you for the beautiful introduction. It really touches my heart. So, I'm Anthea Alexander. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I work as a wellness coach. Um, I probably won't say too much more at this stage. We have a series of interview questions, so it will all come out as we have conversation, and I sincerely hope that it's of benefit to whoever may listen to it. So thank you very much for listening.
Okay, so yeah, we wanted to. It's like a in a way like a phoenix journey, no? Or like a, actually like a heroine story, like person who came out through many things, no? So we see people going through many things, and some people are stuck in there. Some people don't want to come out of there, and so. But in your story and all, you see a huge win or victory, or like how you came out of it. So we'll slowly get into those things. So, Anthea, if I ask you, like, what have you been up to these days?
Okay, so at the moment, as I mentioned, I work as a wellness coach. So that involves coaching people one to one with their if they're wanting to gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight, or they have specific health goals they're wanting to achieve. I can help people. And as part of doing that, I've actually been working on my own health results more recently. So I've been really amping up my nutrition. And for the past 3 weeks, I've been participating in a 21-day challenge. And part of this 21-day challenge and also the work I do as a wellness coach, it's about a philosophy of 80% whole food eating, nutrition, and some supplementation as well. I believe that we do need to supplement our foods, and I can explain a bit more about that during this conversation, or perhaps with another conversation, because I know that Sandy is very interested in alternative medicine, and nutrition is definitely part of natural medicine.
Mhm.
So 80% whole food eating, supplementation, 20% movement, and 100% mindset. And so I have been challenging myself with my nutrition. I've really lifted my game, and also introduced a bit more movement to my life. I've had some amazing results with balancing my mood. My energy is much better, and also my sleep has improved a lot. So I, as part of the 21-day challenge, I took some photos at the beginning
Mhm.
and measured weighed myself, and I'll do that again soon, and I'll be able to compare and see the results. And the reason for that is I want to be the best version of myself so that I can, you know, hopefully inspire other people, so that they can know that they can also do that. What else have I been up to? So basically, I host a meditation session on Monday evenings, and that's anybody is welcome to join me. Because as I was talking about before, the philosophy that I sort of work by is that 80% nutrition, 20% movement, 100% mindset, and that's where meditation comes in. And I'm fascinated by meditation, and I found that in my life, when I meditate, everything seems to balance out and work much better for me. So, by making sure that I am hosting a meditation session, it means that I'm committing myself at least once a week to meditation. And I certainly meditate more than that, but it means that, again, trying to lead by example and inspire other people. If they're interested in meditation, they can certainly come along and join the session and for free. What else have I been up to? I've been having these co-hosting some wonderful conversations with you, Sanji, perhaps for maybe two or 3 months now. And I'm really getting a lot out of these conversations. And the purpose of our conversations, this one's a little bit different. It's more focused on my journey so far. But the purpose of these conversations is about creating a space for people to come that's safe and sacred, where we can discuss anything that people want to discuss, and also to promote more wholesome material to be available on social media and, out in the world, because there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of questionable influences that we're all exposed to every day. So we are wanting to promote conversations and a space where we can explore some different types of issues and more wholesome issues. I think that's probably as much as I am doing at the moment. I also work part-time in a supermarket, and that involves helping people and interacting with people, and I really enjoy that. So I do that for about 10 hours a week. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. So, would you like to share, uh, if you go back memory lane, how was your life's journey?
How was my life's journey? So my life's journey has been like this, up and down and up and down, and a lot of people's lives' journeys might have been like that as well. So basically, I was born in Melbourne in 1972, and I was born to my beautiful parents. Both of them are now with God, so they both passed away in recent years, and I miss them very much. However, I feel their spirit all around me all the time and constantly reminded of them. So basically, my mum was a nurse. She was a midwife, and she was an amazing example of someone who really just wanted to take care of everybody and very, very loving. She was a natural nurse. My father was he came from a farming family. He actually came over from Europe, and he came over in the 60s to visit his sister on a holiday in Australia. And then he stayed for a while, and he's my mum and my dad had a friend in common. So what happened was my mum was invited on a blind date to a dance with my dad from her friend, who was also from Europe, from Slovenia, from former Yugoslavia. And when my dad, the story I've been told is that my dad saw my mum walking down the stairs, and it was love at first sight.
Mhm.
and he basically said, she's going to be my wife. And then he never left Australia after that. He
Okay.
married my mum, and I have two sisters. So I'm the second of three girls. And basically, we grew up in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. We always had pet animals. So we always had
Mhm.
dogs and cats and birds and guinea pigs and minded other people's animals. And I always loved animals, and I always loved gardens and plants, playing out in the garden. I was always a spiritual little creature, and used to talk to fairies and all sorts of different things. And so I grew up. I was educated, and I went to university, and I studied public health.
Mhm.
And then I got a job in local government. I actually got a job with the territory government in Northern Australia in Darwin, and I was based at the Darwin Hospital up there. And that job was involved going out to visit the Aboriginal communities, so the First Nations people in
Okay.
Australia. So I was very privileged and honoured to go out and meet with some very amazing people, and also to see some really, really beautiful parts of Australia that not everybody is able to go and see, because you actually need
Mhm.
to have a permit to go out and see some parts of where the First Nations people live. So, and then I basically fell in love and got married.
Mhm.
And I was with my late husband, who unfortunately passed away in recent years as well, for 17 years. And during that time, I basically had different jobs and different careers, but I had a bit of a dip, and I've talked about this before. When I was about 34, I found myself experiencing some emotions and feelings that I didn't quite recognize. And I'm quite a highly driven person, so I push myself pretty hard. And I had never pushed myself to the point that I had to just like hit a brick wall. I'd been able to push myself quite hard. And my late parents, both very strong characters and also both very physically strong.
Mhm.
So, anyway, I pushed myself too hard, and I was experiencing anxiety. I was overworked, and I got very sick, and then basically resigned from my job. And I found that I I was diagnosed with chronic facial pain, which I still have, but I manage it, and basically had to stop. And yeah, so like I hit a brick wall, had to stop and think about what I wanted to do in the future, because what I was doing wasn't working for me. So
Mhm.
I needed to come up with some different ways forward and different solutions. So, what I actually came up with then was that I really wanted to help people in the healing field, and I wanted to study to be a naturopath, or a doctor of natural medicine when I had the opportunity, and also when I had the energy and it was the right timing. Uh, so that was what I came up with. And after that, I had some different jobs. I volunteered, and I with community organisations, and I also worked in community development, which I really enjoyed, working with
Mhm.
people, helping people. And then in the past probably 13 years or so, I've had a particularly challenging time because my husband died, my parents both died, and I had a series of friends who passed away as well, really close family friends. So, what that's meant is that I've really had to step up and start and look within myself and really be strong to look after myself, because throughout my life I'd always had like my mum, who was my best friend, a very strong lady, or my husband beside me, who protected me and took care of me and was a really good provider. So in the past 13 years, I've really looked inside and examined myself and had to sort of find resources that I didn't even know I had
Mhm.
to live in a way and continue on this journey. And every day is amazing because I I I love being by myself. I love the opportunity to reflect and to think about things. However, I still find it a little bit unusual that I live by myself. And however, for now, I know that things don't last forever. So my situation may well change. But for now, it's really, really healing for me to live by myself. And I reflect on different role models and even sort of religious figures who have spent a lot of time by themselves. And you're an example of that too, Sanji, spending so much time by yourself,
Mhm.
meditating. And so I think it really allows for like a really deep connection with yourself and to get to know yourself at a deeper level.
Mm.
Uh, I'll leave it at that for that question
Okay, okay.
because I've
Yeah.
given quite a bit of information.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And if you want, like, drink a glass of water or sip of water or something, eh? No, anytime, eh?
Okay, thanks.
So now we are talking about a story of a heroine, no? Like a person who. So I'm not trying to make things difficult or like hurtful or anything, because people will wonder, no, like, okay, what was the heroic part of this, no? So please tell from small days, like if you saw that later we'll come to the solutions you got, eh? Next, maybe next question. But here, please tell us, like, what were the obstacles or what were the biggest places you found was most difficult to in life from small days? Because life is a journey, right? So from small days, what were the things like you? But you don't have to feel hurt or anything. It's not like to bring up all things or they say like add salt to the wounds. No, it's not like that. And what were the places you saw like very prominent like obstacles that came in front of you?
Okay, so when I was being born, I actually, my mother had a difficult delivery
Mm.
and they needed to use forceps on my head
Okay.
to lift me out of her body. And I had some nerve damage to my spine.
Mhm.
And what it meant was that my eyes are slightly different. And so from when I was about ten days old, and I opened my eyes up to look at my mother, and my mother, being a nurse, picked up quite quickly that there was something going on with my eyes. And she found a good eye specialist, an eye doctor, and took me to the eye doctor. And basically, he said he diagnosed me with what's called a Horner's syndrome,
Mhm.
and it just means that my eyes are slightly different. My left eyelid is just slightly lower than the other,
Mhm.
um, and my pupils are different sizes.
Mhm.
So he said, just keep bringing Anthea back each year and we'll keep an eye on it. So I grew up going back to see the eye specialist every year. And however, when I was when I was a teenager, I was quite uh, self-conscious about it, and I was worried that people could see that difference, and
Mhm.
I felt like I wasn't like everybody else
Mhm.
because my face wasn't symmetrical. So that was when I was growing up. It's something that I've come to terms with now, and it doesn't really bother me anymore. And I've since learned that because I was told that my eyes were different colors, that one eye is blue and one eye is green.
Mhm.
And by studying my naturopathy degree, I learned that it's actually both my eyes are blue. It's just that I've got a bit of yellow in the one that looks green. So that was
Yellow.
something I
Uh-huh.
that is quite fascinating. And that yellow, it actually is related to my father, because the right side, in iridology, which I studied, natural medicine, uh, yellow in your eye it can be an indicator of hay fever. And my father had really, really bad hay fever. So that's where my green eye comes from. Anyway, it was quite unusual because both my parents had brown eyes and both my sisters had brown eyes. So I came out with blue-green eyes. Now I know they're both blue. And I felt a little bit unusual, like a bit of a black sheep. And sometimes people used to tease me about it a little bit.
Did they bully you?
Not really bullying, but my sister teased me a bit.
Uh-huh.
And it was a sensitive point.
Yeah, no.
So when you just reminded me about something else that I did get bullied a little bit about, though, because my father came from Europe and my mother was Australian. When I was growing up and went to primary school, so that's the first level of school, uh, some of the kids used to tease me, and they would call people that came from Europe Italian people and Greek people, because we had a lot of new Australians they were called. Throughout the years, there have been different people who've immigrated to Australia from different cultures. And so there's been Vietnamese people, Italian people, German people, Yugoslavian people, whole different range. But there was a nickname that people had for people who were sort of Italian Greek. They would call you a wog, and it wasn't a very nice thing to call people. And I used to get called a wog because my dad was from Europe. And I found that quite hurtful. And there was a bit of bullying going on with older boys that used to do that. But yeah. Now, I wanted to also share that when I was 8, my father, so he'd grown up as a farmer. When he came to Australia, he actually worked as a roof plumber. So he used to go on building sites, and he would do the the construction on the very top of the buildings. And he had an accident and fell quite a few levels and landed on like a steel girder and did a lot of damage to himself. And as part of that, he got a traumatic brain injury. So that meant that he was probably like a 13-year-old boy with his mentality, but he's in a big grown man's body. But his brain and his confidence was like probably a 13-year-old. So it was almost like my mother all of a sudden had 4 children. She had her husband, became like another child. And so that was quite challenging growing up like that, but I didn't know anything else, that he was
So
my
yeah, like at that time, it must have affected you all economically also, right? When father, no,
very much so.
very much. No?
So what happened was my father didn't work for a while, and then he was able to get a job helping children cross the street when they were on the way to school. But my mother went from working part-time as a nurse, so she was working maybe, I think, 2 nights a week, and then all of a sudden she was working 9 nights a fortnight. And and we had like friends and neighbors would make sure that we could get to and from school, and we all grew up very, very quickly because we had to step up and help our mother. So we would, do shopping for her. We'd learn how to cook and basically make sure that she was awake so she could get ready and go to work. And so it was yeah, I think it was a fast track childhood. So I think I grew up pretty quickly.
Quickly.
Yeah. Mm.
Then how about the younger times, like when you were like a young adult and all?
So when I was a young adult, I was pretty happy. So I enjoyed going to school and I enjoyed learning things. I had a bit of a challenge when I first went to university because I had been my strengths were humanities type subjects like English, and I was good at languages, French, and I was good at writing. And when I came to the end of my high school education, I sat down with my mum because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to study. And we looked with there was a big course guide, and we looked at all the different courses, and I suggested nursing. And she said, unless you 500% want to become a nurse,
Mm.
don't do it because
Okay.
it's too hard. It's very, very hard work. So I took her advice, and then I ended up applying for an applied science degree. And with the application, they said they didn't say that you had to have studied science or mathematics before. So I applied, and then the first year was very, very challenging because there were quite high level mathematics and chemistry, physics, and biology subjects. I struggled and I failed them. And that was challenging because I was generally quite good at school.
Mhm.
So what I did was I had a talk with the course coordinator, and he gave me some really lovely advice. And he said, when you finish your degree, it won't matter if it takes an extra year.
Mhm.
So just go back and do the subjects again. And that's what I did. And I was able to successfully finish the degree, but it took me one more year to do it. Mm.
Uh-huh. Uh, Often you have talked about your marriage time. So when did this happen?
Okay, so it was just towards the end of my university studies, my initial university studies. So when I was 23, um, I used to go to social functions with my younger sister,
Mhm.
and she was involved in a gym, and she had a really good close group of friends.
Mhm.
And so I used to go to the social functions because they were lots of fun, and because she was like my friend as well. She was like a buddy. So I went to one of the social functions, and I met this man. He was called Harvey, and he was a bit older, and he was a real character. He was really funny
Mhm.
and so I'd met him a couple of times, and my younger sister had talked about him and said that he'd had a marriage in the past, it had broken up, so he was divorced, he was single, and that he was really funny and he was really kind.
Mhm.
So I already knew a bit about him, and then so I went along to another function, and then we got talking, and we really hit it off with each other. We really enjoyed spending time with each other, and he gave me his phone number and said, please call me.
Mhm.
And I said, I will call you because you're a nice man.
Mhm.
So I called him the next day, and then basically we got to know each other and fell in love quite quickly and decided that we wanted to be in a serious relationship. So that happened quite quickly, and then so my marriage with him as well was like that too, like up and down because he experienced some grief and loss that really knocked him around as well. His brother died, and his sister died,
Mhm.
and he had a very traumatic childhood. And I didn't really understand the extent of it because he didn't really talk about it so much.
Mhm.
He also had a difficult experience with his daughter, who was a had used drugs, abused drugs, and so these were some issues that really troubled him, but he didn't really talk to me so much about them. I knew they were there, but he didn't really open up, and some people don't. So he had a lot of pain, and then basically we had a good marriage, and what happened basically towards the end of our marriage, the last sort of final years were he was diagnosed. He stopped working. First of all, he really loved working, and he worked in the construction industry, and he operated earth moving equipment, the really big,
Big
uh,
plans.
big equipment, and he loved that.
Mhm.
He got to the age where he decided he was going to stop working. And when he stopped working, he had a medical checkup and had some tests and found out that he had cancer. So we went to see the doctors, and they advised about surgery and radiation treatment. And it was a pretty scary time. And I tried to support him as well as I could. And basically, he survived his cancer and he was in remission. But during his cancer treatments, he decided that he would stop drinking alcohol. He wasn't a big drinker, but he did enjoy drinking. And I think that we've talked about this before about people who numb themselves with different things. And I think he numbed himself with alcohol. So he didn't have to think about things that troubled him. So he stopped drinking. And I think that when he did that, he had to face the things that were troubling him. And he got depression. And I basically said to him, things are not right with you. You're not yourself. He was crying a lot. And he was just really unusual behavior, and withdrawing from friends and withdrawing from me, and very, very unusual behavior for him. And I said to him, you really need some help. But he couldn't, I don't think he could hear what I was saying. And finally, I said to him, look, I'm not feeling safe in our marriage anymore, because he was emotionally abusing me. I know it was because he had depression, but he couldn't see it, and I knew something had to change. So I said, I've got to go. I need to leave, and you really need to get help. And if you want to go and see a doctor, I'll come with you, and I'll also help you to to organize your life and make sure that you're okay when we're not living together. And I still loved him very much, but something had to change. So he went and saw a doctor, and he started taking some antidepressant medication, and he was doing quite well for maybe about 10 months. And we were still friends, and we still saw each other, and I used to go and visit him in the top of the state where I live in Victoria. And I still really enjoyed his company. And then I was expecting to see, the last time I saw him, I was expecting him to meet him down in Australia, down in Melbourne, I should say. He was going to come and visit for a didgeridoo festival, which is the amazing, beautiful instruments that First Nations people play. And he played those.
He could play.
He learned how to play in the last year of his life, and I think it really helped him to deal with his that part of his life. So we were going to meet, and then unfortunately I received a phone call saying that he was gone. He wasn't alive anymore, and that he committed suicide, and I was just shattered into 1,000 pieces. So that's been the big obstacles
Yes.
that I've
And
dealt
you
with.
told the passing away of your mother also, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
that was
Passing
also
away
a big one, no?
passing away of my mother really, really affected me, and it still affects me, because she was my best friend. And I read something recently, and it really resonated with me. And it was something along the lines of grieving, and that when you have a best friend, for I had she was my best friend for
Mhm.
46 years, and no one really prepares you, or nothing prepares you for the day when your best friend dies and you're by yourself. Yeah. So it's been a big, big learning curve for me since she died, because I could talk with her about anything. She was always there, always on the other side of the other end of the phone if I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily with her physically. So it was, yeah, really, really tough. However, I look in the mirror and I know that I'm half of her. I've got half her genes. And so she's actually lived like within my body, because half of me is her.
Mhm.
And yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so now we see the bright side. So yeah, it's great. No, you survived all these things. You came out of these things, and here you are helping many other people now. So we'll take some random places. And please tell us like how you came. For example, when you were a child, if you can take that, or when you just went to university, or like maybe three places, maybe the instance if you like to discuss about it, especially when you went through what happened with your husband, and then like now, like what is going after mother. Uh, I would say she unified with God. So can you please take like three random places of your liking, and which you really came out of, or you are coming, or like you really turn things around.
Okay. So I'll talk about my mother's death. Uh, so basically, I feel like I'm still coming out of that situation.
Mhm.
However, and I think what happened, so my mother passed away in August of 2018. So it was just maybe 18 months or so before we had the COVID pandemic.
Mhm.
So um, when my mother died, it meant that I had been living with my mum in our family home. And so what happened was I needed to find another home
Mhm.
on a low income, so I wasn't earning a lot of money. I had been working as the primary carer for my mum, because she had lots and lots of appointments and health issues, that so she needed someone caring for her full time
Mhm.
to help her to live at home, and that's what she wanted. So that's what I had been doing for 4 years beforehand.
Mhm.
So when my mother passed away, she had been in hospital pretty much for about 8 months, different hospitals. And fortunately, we were able to get her home for about 2 weeks. And that was her
Mhm.
goal. She wanted to come back home. And so we were able to get her home for 2 weeks. And then unfortunately, her condition and her pain was too much for her to be cared for at home. So she went to a hospital or a hospice,
Mhm.
where we knew that she probably wouldn't come home. That was
Mhm.
where her life was going to end. But she felt peaceful about that, because that's where her father had actually died. So in other circumstances, she had really fought being in hospital, but in this circumstance, it just seemed that she was very at peace with it. And what I had done was, so I said that I explained that my mother had been in hospital for about 8 months, and probably when she'd been in hospital for about 5 months, she realized that she probably wasn't going to get any better. She probably, it, and what she decided was that she wanted to have palliative care. So she didn't want to have, just say, for example, if she had a heart attack, she didn't want to be resuscitated
Mhm.
because she just felt that she wanted to let nature sort of take its course
Mhm.
and die more, like end her life more gently and peacefully rather than having uh, Western medicine continually trying to make her better, because she wasn't a young, healthy person her body had been through so much.
Mhm.
So that's what she decided. And when she decided that, she also expressed that I think, she was a twin. So she had been born as a twin, and she was a person who didn't do very well by herself.
Mhm.
So she always had people around her. And when she was in hospital, she did have the nurses and the doctors, and I think she felt comfortable in that situation and environment because that was her work environment. However, she did get quite lonely because the nurses and doctors can't be with her all the time. So what we decided was that somebody would stay with her every night. And
Mhm.
that's what I committed to do. I basically slept in the hospital. Wherever she was, I slept
Mhm.
beside her every night. So she
Mhm.
had somebody. And then during the day, I would go and do other things, but I would make sure that I slept with her at night. And when she went to the hospice and she felt quite at peace, she said to me, "You can go home and sleep at home tonight. You don't have to stay with me tonight. I feel peaceful." And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And yeah, so basically, then the next day I came to see her, and she wasn't able to speak. She wasn't able to speak with me, and I pointed it out to the nurses, and they thought maybe she had some sort of neurological event, so she might have had a stroke or something like that.
Mhm.
And then the following day, we knew that the doctors and the nurses just basically said, "We think that she's going to die quite soon, so let everybody know." So I called everybody up, her family, and everybody came and said goodbye to her. And then we sat peacefully with her, and I held her hand, and she couldn't move her body too much, and she couldn't speak, but she was sort of just curving her body towards me. So, and my sisters were there as well. And basically, I held her hand, and then her spirit left her body, and I felt like there was angels in the room, just very, very peaceful. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had.
Mhm. Okay. So
Mm.
thank you for sharing, Anthea. So yeah. So now, at what point, like if you come back more further, so now you take this holistic approach. You were a nurse and you went through many things in life, no? Even work related, also things happen. And then in life, many things happen, no? So if somebody is really interested, they can contact you and then, no, like even. So I don't want to like dig more into those things for now. I think it's not so easy also to explain those things, no? But you can advise somebody, no? Hey, I tried this or I did this and I came out of it. Like, why don't you also try, no? So now let's go to another question, Anthea. So at what point, like, did you take a turn towards like the path you are on now?
Okay, so the path I am on now has come about. It's sort of almost been like I've been on a path, like a physical path that you would walk along,
Mm.
and there's been some twists and turns in the physical path. So what I can say is that um, when, hmm, Yeah, it's sort of come about over a number of years. So I'd say probably the last maybe even 20 years. It's just gradually I've come to
Mhm,
this path. But more specifically, I can talk about the past 5 years or so.
mhm,
So once my mother passed away, I really, so I'd lost, I couldn't stay in our home. So I had to find another home. I had to find another job, and I had lost my best friend. So I was really very, very, very sad.
mhm,
And what happened was I was looking for work, and I went along to like a professional association evening, and
mhm,
I met this really lovely woman, and I talked to her about wanting to find work, and then she gave me her phone number and she said, "Please come and have lunch with me one day, and I would love to hear more about your story and what
mhm,
you want to do." And what I had wanted to do at that point in time was to uh, perhaps set up a retreat center.
mhm,
So I'd had a vision about being in a retreat center and helping people. So when I had lunch with this lady, I said to her, "This is what I feel I'm meant to be doing. I want to set up a retreat center, um, and potentially in Bali, Indonesia."
uh-huh,
She said she's very, very good with business and small business and people setting up as entrepreneurs. And she said to me, "Why don't you just try doing that in a smaller way and see if you like it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So what I did was she actually invited me along to a course for entrepreneurs,
uh-huh,
and I attended the course, and that was designed to find out who I wanted to work with and how I could do it. And what actually came out of that course, that was for about maybe 6 months, was that I started doing a series of workshops with women,
mhm,
and um, and then I sort of it became a little bit more specific. And then I started working with people who were women who were health professionals. And it was about supporting them to prevent them from burning out so that they had support. It could be either one to one or through workshops to help them to prevent them from burning out because they give so much of themselves. And that I was inspired by my mother, and my mother who would go to work all night and then she would come home in the mornings, and then she would tell us about the different stories of this baby was born and this happened.
mhm,
And so she would debrief to us.
mhm,
So I felt like I had learned from my mother to be a listener, and
mhm,
that I could listen to people and hold space for people. So that's what I was looking at that stage. And I did hold workshops, and I also did some one-to-one coaching, and that was more in the emotional well-being area. And then what happened was I needed to move again from where I was living, and so I moved, and I also got some work. And what that meant was that I decided, and I was studying at the time as well, I decided that I would just put a pause on my uh, working for myself and that side of my business, because I was putting a lot of effort into my being employed and by somebody else and moving house and looking after myself and studying. So for a few years, for about 3 years, I was more focused on sort of like practical aspects of life and just day to day things. And then more recently, Last year, I can say, at the end of October, I decided that I wanted to host some meditation sessions. So I felt called that and guided that I had the space within me to do that on a regular basis
Mhm.
and to help other people. And then so I offered those sessions and I've been hosting those sessions. And then amazingly, through doing that, you reached out and said, would you like to be involved in what I'm doing, co-hosting
Mhm.
these events? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And we had a meeting, and then basically we've had our weekly sessions since then, which have been
Mhm.
amazingly healing for me. And I didn't expect that they would be healing for me.
Oh.
I felt it was more about giving to other people, but it's amazing when you give to other people, you receive as well. So, yeah, I can't remember what the question was you asked me,
No,
but
no,
I've
it's okay.
talked.
It's okay. Totally fine. Eh? So, are there like within this journey, unforgettable experiences? Just some, if you like to share.
Unforgettable experiences, definitely. So, I already talked about being by my mother's side
Mm,
when she passed away. That's definitely an unforgettable
sure.
experience. I felt very honoured to be able to do that. Uh, Another unforgettable experience was the day I got married, which was one of the happiest days of my life.
Mhm.
I was very surrounded by friends and family, and the sun was shining, and it was outside. It was in nature, and it just felt like a really beautiful celebration.
Mhm.
And another day that is unforgettable is the day I decided that I was going to become a Muslim person.
Mhm.
And I had been investigating and considering about whether I felt that I could do it justice if I was going to accept another faith. I wanted to make sure I could do it properly.
Mhm.
So I'd been talking with some Muslim women about it, and I'd joined a class, and the class was for like the little kids, sort of
Mhm.
5 to probably 10 years old. And
Mhm.
so they'd invited me into the class because I was like that. I was
Mhm.
like a, a youngster in my knowledge of Islam. And after the class, the teacher said to me, so what do you think? Do you think you'll become a Muslim? And I said, yes, I want to, but I want to make sure that my life is peaceful before I do it. And it was after my husband had committed suicide and things were quite turbulent. And there were some legal issues, and I was going to court. And basically the teacher said to me, well, we see things a little bit differently in Islam. And if you accept that Islam, your life will become more peaceful. That's what we believe. And I said, well, let's do it. And there were other witnesses in the room. And basically, I made a test, I testified that there's one God and that Muhammad is his prophet, his final messenger. And um, and then they all cried, and that was, yeah,
Mhm.
an amazing day for me. And it was like the start of a new life. And it's been a very, very peaceful part of my journey.
As a coach, any one or two like experience as a wellness coach, even one, if you can, if you like to share.
Okay, so as a wellness coach, my first client was my mum. So
Oh,
my
okay.
my mum, and I'm very proud of that. And often, like our mums are so supportive. So that was amazing, and I was able to help her a lot through the beautiful products that I'm able to distribute as a wellness coach. Yeah, so I was honoured that my mother was my first customer, and so that was really amazing. And during her years that the final years of her life, I was able to support her with the beautiful products that I distribute. And also, our family friend, I basically talked with her about the work that I was doing. She was very, very enthusiastic, and she said, I would love to try the products.
Mhm.
And then she was my customer for 9 years.
Now, what do you think your situation is now?
So my situation now is I feel like I'm at a crossroads of my
Mhm.
journey, and I feel that I have a definite purpose and a mission to make an impact on people's health. And I feel that I have some really beautiful gifts and experience and skills that I can help people with in terms of emotional well-being, really holistically. So I can help people with their physical bodies, with their mindset, with through meditation and emotional well-being as well, through the experiences that I've had so far and through what I do in terms of looking after my own body.
Oh, wonderful. So, and Anthea, if I ask you, like, where do you want to take all this?
Okay. So, um, back to what I talked about with the retreat center, when we were talking about having this interview conversation, I had put aside the dream and vision of having a retreat center during COVID because it was so challenging and we had really tough lockdowns in Melbourne. We weren't able to travel.
Mhm.
The prior years before COVID, I'd spent a lot of time in Bali, and also Lombok Island in Indonesia, and made lots of friends. And I really love both of those areas. And so I had and was considering either running a retreat um, in one of those locations or actually setting up a retreat center. So what I would really love to do is I would love to potentially host retreats for people,
Mhm.
and not necessarily only in Bali, Indonesia or Lombok Island, but throughout the world. I think that would be amazing. So,
Mhm.
Lanka, watch out. I might host a retreat and have run a retreat center in Sri Lanka. You never know.
You suddenly look at it, there's Anthea with a retreat.
On your window.
So, finally, I would like to ask, like, what would be your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal is really to leave a legacy so that I can potentially touch a lot of people's lives and help them in whatever way they requiring help. So yeah, it's about making an impact. I would also love to write a book, and that's something a goal of mine that I really started seriously considering when in about 2011, but I've sort of started and stopped. It hasn't happened, but I would love for it to happen and potentially more than one book as well. So that's yeah, I really want to be of service to humanity and Mother Nature, animals and plants. And if I can do that to whatever a bit to whatever level of my ability I can for the rest of my life, I'll be very happy.
And talking about a book, when you were talking about the topic, I thought, like, why not this be a topic for a book? No, the journey and life of a wise woman. No, that would be perfect. No, or like one book, one of the books, right?
Yeah. Great minds think alike, because I was thinking the same thing when I was
Okay.
in this conversation, this interview. I was thinking, and by the way, Sanji picked that title, Life and Journey of a Wise Woman. I suggested, I think, The Life of a Wise Woman, but you came up with The Life Journey. So yes, I think it would make a great book title. And I also think that all the topics that we've been talking about during these past months, I could incorporate as chapters in the book
Mhm.
potentially.
Mhm. Or separate books even, right? Okay, then. Thank you so much. And what about your personal spiritual journey? Or if you would like to share about it, like, well, because some people they like to connect, be with God. No, like some people, it different with due respect to all. No, so some people like to be with God, some people with Brahman, some people wants to go to the heavens, and some people even enlightenment. What would it be for you?
So my ultimate goal is to reach heaven, or Jannah is the Islamic, the Arabic word, I should say. So that's my ultimate goal. And as part of that, I would be very, very honored and um, immensely grateful if I could see God. So if I could be facing God and for him to be pleased with me, him or her, that would be the ultimate for me.
Okay, then. So thank you so much, Anthea Alexander. So it was been a great pleasure, and these are like bits of your whole journey, you know. And thank you so much for being open and sharing with this, because I know, we try to feel like it's not a easy thing to go through all these things in life, and you came out of all these things. So definitely we'll put all your details in the post as well as the video, so hopefully if somebody needs, they can reach you, right?
Oh, that
There
would
are many
be
people who are going through these kind of situations in life. Some people just want to end it all, they go for other addictions, or they lose it. So even young children, no, many things, even elders for that matter, right? Even age doesn't matter, no. You could be at some place you thought everything was all right, then suddenly everything collapses, right? And then you feel lost. So we'll put all your details so they anybody can contact you through. So thank you so much, and we wish you the very best in achieving all these wonderful goals, and to be a part of it or even help as much as possible. And hope you have a wonderful journey, and maybe all be able to help everybody along the journey. So thank you again, and thank you for everybody for listening, and later who people who are even listening to this. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Sanji.